All right, so I'm Lindsay Hyduk. I serve as the president of the Community Council for one more night only. And I'll do a really quick overview of Zoom and then move us into the meeting. So we do ask folks to stay muted if you're not talking. You can do that by kind of hovering or getting your menu bar. It's the bottom left corner, click on mute. You can start or stop your camera as well. If you're doing something busy, please don't show yourself. But if you're going to speak or participate, we do ask you to turn your camera on or sit at your camera. So it's almost like we're in a meeting. You can click on gallery view up at the top for view settings so that you can see lots of different faces that are in the room. Other good things to click on are at the bottom, you can click on participants and you can see who's here. We do ask that you click on your name and rename yourself. So you've got your first and your last name so that we know who is here. We also have a chat box. And if you click on chat, I think Arena or Meg, someone will put a link to the sign-in sheet. That's another way that we that is how we keep track of participants at the meeting. So go ahead and sign in when that's there. I think that's going to be my brief Zoom overview, and I'll move us over to share my screen so that you can follow along. So at the Community Council in person, you would get a bunch of handouts, and you can still find all of those handouts on our website. So this is our Community Council homepage. And when you scroll down, you can click on things like our current agenda, our meeting minutes, and our meeting handouts, and draft resolutions and things that we'll consider for tonight. So this is your quick section about what we're going to be covering tonight. And then what we've got on our minutes from last meeting have been posted and also emailed out. There are 4 pages of those. And we also have our agenda up. Tonight, we've got a big meeting. We had a lot of different topics and the executive board elections, but we wanted to make sure we were going to continue to cover important topics. So it's a long meeting. We'll try to be as efficient as we can, but we will have our regular reports and updates. And then we have some letters and resolutions to consider for Spenard Road design project, nominations for transportation funding, TIP nominations. We actually will move this noise resolution to next month probably. And so we're just going to kick the can on that again, but it is something that we will cover as a council. And then we'll move into our executive board elections, and we have a presentation about wildlife hazard mapping and just some announcements. And the announcement section at the end, community neighborhood announcements, are good times to introduce yourself, let us know what's going on in your part of the neighborhood, or if there are any events, things to share with the group, that's a great time to share as well. We do have door prizes, so that's if you click on the sign-in sheet and you fill out the form, we have random door prizes that we give out, but you must be present to win. So that's what we've got for our meeting tonight. And to start things off, I'm going to ask if there is a motion for our consent agenda, which are approval of our minutes and tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion?
To accept.
Thanks, Irene.
This is
Thanks,
Peggy.
Great. Any edits or changes like to our minutes or anything? Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can introduce our executive board and then move us into our reports. So as I can see, folks, we've got Meg, who serves as our secretary. She's taking minutes for tonight. We've got Julie Leonard, Peggy Oth, and Tani Sakarichia, who all serve as auditors. We've got Irina Filipenko, who serves as our treasurer, and Irene Person-Gamble, who serves as our vice president. And if you have any questions throughout the night and you go to the chat, you can chat to hosts. You can chat to myself, Meg, Irina, or Tani. We're all kind of monitoring that for the meeting. So with that, I haven't even had a chance to scroll through the whole list. And so we would like to see if we have Senator Natasha von Imhoff tonight so she can share an update from Juneau. Anyone see her name? No. All right. Well, we'll hold off on that. If she attends a little bit later, we can go back, but let's keep us rolling. So over to assembly reports. Austin Quinn Davidson is traveling, but we do have Cameron Presverdia. So Cameron, take it away.
Thank you so much. Good to see everyone. I know you have a full meeting, so I'll try to be as efficient as possible. I'm able to share screen. Yes, that's an option for me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start with reapportionment, and I think both Austin and I have talked about this over the last couple of meetings. Reapportionment is essentially establishing new assembly maps in Anchorage, and I wanted to just direct you to the assembly page, and that you can scroll down to hot topics, and there is under reapportionment, there are 3 documents in there that I want you to be aware of. One is a fact sheet, another one is a timeline, which has just recently been updated, and the third is the draft maps. And so I want you to be aware of those, and that they're full of really good information that is going to help to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on with reapportionment. We are moving right along. We've had town halls on January 26th and 27th. There will be another town hall on February 3rd in Eagle River. 10 maps have been developed at this point. There's a potential for an 11th map. The committee that is working on this is developing criteria to select a map to bring to the assembly using criteria based on current code. And their plan is to select one map and to bring that forward for discussion. That will come to the assembly on February 15th. There will be 2 public hearings, one on February 24th and one on March 1st. And so that's sort of the plan at this point. Most of the maps, if you look at them, don't make significant changes to the west side, but there's still lots of work to be done. The other thing I really want to encourage you to do around reapportionment is on that same website. If you go to there's a link for community comment, and we're really encouraging people to get in there and to share their comments around the map. The majority of the changes, as you can probably imagine, are facing downtown, Eagle River, and East Anchorage. And the other thing just to be aware of is that we are part of the reapportionment is because we are establishing a 12th seat. That won't go into effect, and the map won't go into effect until after the most recent election. So this will not change the election that we're seeing coming up in April. Moving on to homelessness. And Lindsay, I don't know if you were able to post that report that I sent. You did, great, I see your head nodding.
I'll put the link, and I can share it if you want as well.
Oh, I've got it right here, so okay, I can share it. And so here we go. So let me share this. It's pretty in depth, and so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will just say that a lot of work is being done, and that there's been some real progress. One of the areas of progress I will share is just in funding, and there is a fund that has been established at the Alaska Community Foundation. There's currently $9.5 million in that fund, and more to come. Lots of people are involved in contributing to this effort. Rasmussen Foundation, Chugach, Alaska, Chalista, Wider Apartments, and more. Doyon is donating $250,000 for furnishings and for a door. And so part of this is not just the work that's happening between the assembly and the administration. Because we're going through this facilitated process, it's really drawing a lot of involvement and funding from the private sector and from the philanthropy sector. It's really, really exciting. The other thing is that we're looking at the operation costs of these facilities, and the most likely funding source of those is going to be HUD, so ESG and CDBG, state funding, municipality funding, and philanthropy funding. So the other thing about this work is just the different labels. We've been using different labels. The complex care shelter, which is previously we called that medically fragile, that's the SOC-IN, and we're very, very close to finalizing that. We will be using that before it's fully up and running as a transition to get folks out of the Sullivan arena, really prioritizing folks that have medical needs and that are medically more fragile. The other building that we're looking at and we're getting closer to is the workforce housing that we're looking at the Barrett Inn on Spenard. We're doing our due diligence at this point. But the focus of that is going to be on people who are experiencing homelessness but can live independently with case management, and who are also involved in workforce. So they're working. The third is the Single Adult Navigation Center, which is the facility on Elmore and Tudor. That's still very, very early in its development. Funding has been put forth for a design that has not been completed. I really want to encourage folks that there's a lot to be determined around that so far. But funding has been put forward to begin the design process, and there has been a request sent to the state by the Assembly for additional funding to fund that and other services as well. There are other work going on. There's work around finding a place for special populations, substance abuse housing, and also really focusing on trying to transition out of the mass care out of the Sullivan by this summer, possibly the spring, but I think it's more likely to be the summer. Moving on to a couple of more things, and I know I'm running out of time. We did approve a new police chief, Chief Curl. We're excited to work with him. He was officially accepted by the Assembly, and I co-chair the Public Safety Committee, so we had a chance to work with him today. Bonds. I was hoping to bring you more on bonds. They're still working on the fact sheet. It's still waiting on bond council approval. But I will tell you that I really want to thank Lindsay and many others. Austin Quinn Davidson did a tremendous amount of work to get some really important projects on this bond. And just a few of them real quick, the Lois and 32nd, which is $2 million for design. And this was a priority project for the Spenard Community Council. And it's improvements like new road foundation, asphalt, those kinds of things. The 32nd and 33rd, which is located within Spenard, from Spenard Road to Arctic. It's actually technically in Midtown, but Spenard, your council supports it, and that's $1 million for design. And then finally, funding for beginning to look at daylighting Fish Creek. And so $320,000 for a feasibility study and an economic study there. And so we're hoping that all gets finalized soon. We get the fact sheets done, and we'll start to get that out and get people more information about those. Last couple things real quick. COVID. There is a new updated report from the Department of Health, and I'll forward that. It's on the Health Policy Committee website, and I can forward it to you, Lindsay. It essentially says that community transmission is still very high. We still need to be very vigilant. We're still encouraging people to wear masks and to distance and to wash their hands, and to, if you have not, please consider becoming vaccinated. So that's still something we need to make sure. We're not through it yet. There's still a lot of work to do to make sure that we keep everyone safe. And just one last really quick announcement before I open it up for questions is the plastic bag ban did go back into effect on January 1st. And so that is back in effect. And so just want to make sure people are aware of that. And that transition, I think for many is hard. It's hard to switch back and forth. And so we hope folks will be patient as stores start to make that transition, and we shift back to a mode where we're not using plastic, but we're encouraging people to bring their reusable bags to the store. And hopefully that will become more normalized in our community. With that, I'll stop and see if there are questions from the council.
Great. It looks like we've got a question from Sarah, and then Grant, you wrote into the chat, but I'm not sure what your question is. So we'll go to yours next, but go ahead, Sarah, and then Grant, and then Meg.
My question is about the facilities to help transition from mass care to supportive care. How are those staffed? Is it various nonprofits? Are they municipal employees? Like what's the plan for that, even if it's in kind of outline form?
Yeah, so great question. Those will, an RFP will go out, and there will be a community organization agency that will staff those. Those will not be staffed by municipal employees. And those RFPs and RFIs are being created now. For instance, the Barrett Inn, the municipality has no interest in owning that. And so there is actually, and this is in the report, there is actually a community organization that is interested in owning that. And we're going through that process now. So, but no, in all of those cases, we will have a community provider, and we will be able to work with them to make sure that they can bill for the services, because that's part of the sustainability of those, is to be able to bill for as many of those services as possible.
Great, thank you. And I think Meg might have Grant's question, so we'll go to Meg and then Tawny and Paul.
Perfect. Yes, one question from the chat from Grant was asking if the alcohol tax is being used to fund things listed in the homelessness report.
So it's not being used at this point for the facilities that we are doing, but that's one consideration. I think that right now the funding that we're planning on using for these facilities for getting them up and running is funding directly from the money that we had set aside from the federal government, the COVID funds, as well as philanthropy and private business. So currently, no, we're not using the alcohol tax, but that may be a consideration moving forward as we're looking at funding continuing services in some of these areas. It would fit for some of this. So that's certainly a possibility.
Great. And one other quick question from the chat from Margaret was if reapportionment will impact the boundaries for community councils.
It's possible, yeah, yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I think it absolutely will, because for many of these the lines are going to change, and so I'll give you an example that at a previous meeting they had talked about changing the name of Sand Lake to the what was it, the lakes community, because there are so many lakes out there. But yes, I would expect that that it would change. Again, I don't see this particular council's boundaries changing significantly, so I don't think it's something this particular council. But I think for those in Eagle River, downtown, east side, many of those may be impacted depending on where the lines end up. So yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll actually just add, I asked that question about if community council boundaries would change at the town hall meetings they had last week. And they said potentially further down the road, but there's nothing in the reapportionment process that actually kicks off remapping out any of the community councils. So If our council has an assembly district or two, we'll just have more assembly members attend our meetings, which happens to other councils right now. So yeah, I was wondering that too.
That's great. There's in the report, actually, there's another section at the bottom. There's a whole ripple effect of a lot of this. Is it depending on where these lines end up, it can affect assembly seats, it can affect terms, it can affect a whole bunch of things. So it's going to be a process of getting the map set and then working through all of those steps. So yeah.
Great. Tani, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on something that's come up around the Bronson administration and how it's been working with assembly members. And I was curious if you had noticed that there have been some improvements or if things are still difficult in terms of getting things done, because I think last we heard they were still sort of being bottlenecked through Amy Dembowski. I'm sorry, I can't think of her official title.
Yeah.
If things have improved over the past month or so.
Well, that's a kind of a small question with a big answer, but I can try to say that it's getting information from the administration is generally for me been a challenge. I chair the Health Policy Committee meeting and the Public Safety Committee, and I'm working on a number of projects. I think it depends. I think it depends on the area. I think in some cases things are working well and folks are communicating, and in others it's not. And so today is a good example. We had a meeting of the Health Policy Committee. This topic came up. There was a great deal of frustration about lack of information and lack of communication. And I think that worked, because now I got an email this afternoon from the director of the health department, and he's willing to meet with me. And so I think the idea is that I think they're still adjusting to the transition of coming into office. Lots of positions have turned over. There's been just a tremendous amount of change. And so we will continue to try. We'll continue to try to work with them to collaborate as much as we can. And so I wouldn't say from my perspective it's necessarily improved. I think it's still challenging, but we are hopeful, and we're still all trying. We're still trying to continue to get the information we need and continue to collaborate on the things that we can.
Great, thank you. I think Paul doesn't have his hand up anymore and is busy. Okay, I think that's it, Cameron. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. And as always, I'm available. Please don't hesitate to email me or call me if you have questions or need anything at all. So thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right, so next I will welcome our school board representative, Margot Bellamy. Welcome, Margot.
Thank you. And just like that, January is over. January is a wrap. So we are here today on 2222. So I want to give a few very brief updates. And I have Tom Finiseth in the room with me tonight so that he can help me with if you have questions regarding our bond, which was passed by the Assembly last month, but we have not had a discussion on it yet. So I will be brief. So a couple of announcements, countdown to kindergarten. It's that time of year again to start thinking about those littles. And if you want to attend a virtual or an in-person meeting, I will get that information to you, but it's on our website. And there's lots of opportunities for parents, guardians, nanas and papas to find out information about Countdown to Kindergarten. Our parent-teacher conferences are this month. That's on the February 16th and 17th. And if you have little ones well, not just little ones, if you have students, you would have gotten a notice and a link to the scheduling where you can schedule your students, your family's appointment. We are also into our spring lottery for our special schools, our alternative schools rather. So if you are interested in those, we won't have, now remember, we won't be having our usual Visit Our Schools month because of COVID, but each school will be having some kind of virtual presentation for families. So, and we will have a huge charter school and alternative school fair at the Ed Center on the 19th of February. So if you are interested in that. The superintendent search, I did share a link. Well, I didn't yet, but I was about to share a link on the superintendent search. That survey closes tonight. It's been out there since December. It will close tonight. So if you have not gotten an opportunity to give your voice to that, please do so. And I know you've heard we have a tentative agreement with AEA. It is up to their membership now to decide whether to move forward with that or not, but we are optimistic. And we are hoping to have that as well as our budget voted on by our next meeting, by the 22nd, not the next one. Our next meeting is the 8th. And the meeting where we will deal with our budget, not deal with it, but hopefully approve it and make sure that hopefully we'll have an AEA teacher agreement at the same time. And our budget process, we did an overview of our budget last night, and we will make that available to the public on our website. But we will also be having discussions this week, and we will also have discussions at our meeting next week. So now to the bond. As you know, the bond, we did submit a 2-year, we're on a 2-year cycle. So we have not had an ASD bond since 2020. So 2022, we have a bond, the Assembly approved it. It's just over $111 million. I'll get it right here. Okay, and it includes 31 school projects at 25 sites. We really focused on our deferred maintenance and security needs. And so we get a lot of questions about what does that mean in terms of taxpayer impact, and that's a great question. And it really comes down to about $12.93 per $100,000 for each property owner. And so, but you know, we have our schools, some of our schools are aging. Some of them needed a lot of roof repair. We had a lot of improvements and some design money, as well as some, we had, I think, $12 million for Lake Otis Elementary School for renovation. And then we had the Inlet View School for replacement. And so, but again, we're on a 2-year cycle. And so you won't get this next year. I promise you won't get this next year. So there's, I'd rather focus on questions if you had them. I will put links, share links so you can get to our website. We do have a website. We have our bond website up. And we really do want you to take a look at that. We also have our budget documents up so that you can look at those. Those links are in my report, which I will submit, and then you can link to them as you wish. Tom, do you want to add anything else relative to the bond?
No, I think it was covered pretty well. I also sent the links to the bond website and also the bond flyer.
Great. Yeah, I think we both did. That's great. Thank you. So at this point, if there are questions on any of all the stuff I've said, I will be able to answer them for you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here, and thanks, Tom. I don't see any questions. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask?
Okay.
I don't think so.
You know where I am if you need me. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for your work. All right, I wasn't able to confirm that we would have an officer attend. Do we have an officer with APD to share a report out? Okay, I don't think so. So I think we're going to our airport update with John Johansson. Welcome, John.
Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for having me. I have a pretty brief update. There's not a whole lot new. I'll go through it quickly. We're still dealing with COVID. We still have free vaccines available to anyone 12 and older at the Capstone Clinic, which is to the left as you're facing the B Concourse ticketing, Delta and American and United. It's to the left of the ticketing area where the old Grizzly Pizza restaurant was. So there's free vaccines there, and non-secure side COVID testing has been discontinued. And actually secure side has also been discontinued as of the 31st. So, but we still do have vaccines. We are looking for input from the community councils and other folks about our community outreach plan to see if you have any suggestions on how we may revise it. So there's information in our update on that. I guess I'll say it again. Cell phone parking lot, please use it. We have still congestion at the terminal at certain times on the curbside, people waiting to pick up their family and friends. Please park in the cell phone lot and have your family and friends call you when they have their bags so we don't have that congestion. Lakehead Seaplane Base is an active aerodrome being used until the ice is gone, at least when there's not overflow. It gets temporarily shut when there's overflow or bad surface conditions. But for the most part, it's going to be operating through the winter. We are looking to hire some folks. We had a very successful job fair. The airport was there along with many of our tenants looking to hire folks to fill positions, and there's information on the airport update related to opportunities there. We've got a contact here that we've added for Megan Peters, who's on the call with me. She's our new communications coordinator, and her email address is there if you have any questions or comments for the airport. That's a good place to go to get them answered. The other thing that's not on here that most of you have probably heard about is our airport manager, Jim Sesniak, will be leaving the airport for warmer climes down in Houston to take a position with the Houston airport system. I think his last day is 17th or 18th of this month. So that's all I have. If there are any questions or comments, I'll entertain them to my best ability, and maybe Megan can fill in the blanks.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have a question from Bob and Peggy, and then Jet.
Hi, John. This is Peggy. Hi. Who's going to be taking over after Jim leaves? Do you have someone who's going to be acting as the airport manager, or?
Yes. The Deputy of Aviation, John Binder, will be acting.
Thank you. We don't want to lose you. Stick around.
Okay, I will.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Jed.
Yeah, hi, John. This came up in a conversation with a couple of my neighbors the other night. It was something that I noticed but hadn't really realized was a problem until they actually brought it up. But I'm just curious, is the airport managing the taxi cab queue line? I've flown probably 5 times in the last year or so, and each time when I arrive and try to catch a cab to come home, not every single time, but a few times, it's been, how should I say, a little bit chaotic. Either people don't know where to line up, or the cab drivers don't know where to line up, or it's just kind of difficult to catch a cab. So I'm curious, is the airport doing anything to manage that?
Our operations officers periodically throughout the day visit that area and try to give some direction to the cab drivers. So it's not 20, it's, you know, it's not 24 hours a day actively managed, but there is management of it on a more limited basis. But I will pass your concerns on to our operations manager and let them know that we're getting some comments about the queue.
Thank you. Any other questions for John or Megan? All right, I think we're good. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so our next topic, I'm going to turn it back over to Peggy and Bob to talk about the Spenard Road project. And I can share comments. I could go to the website, whatever you want me to do, just let me know.
No. Are you going to show the letter on the screen?
Yeah, that's what I can do.
Okay. Yes, hello. We have a task force that has been meeting on a regular basis. And we had a very fruitful discussion at our last meeting about concerns that the community has for the design of Spenard Road when it goes through the rehab phase. And there were some really good ideas. So Bob and I just more or less kind of, well, I should say Lindsay collated them, rounding them up. And so we drafted this letter, and we just, it might be difficult for you to do a quick read here, but basically the idea is to maintain, or actually bring Spenard Road back more into the community, making it a better place for people to bicycle ride, to walk. Handicapped people can access the road better, is our hope. We're getting a lot of housing very quickly in the near future on Spenard Road with Cook Inlet's project. There's going to be another big project at the end of Chugach on Arctic with JJ Brooks. And so this is going to be, it's going to put a lot more people on the road. And we're trying to think of a way to not make it where it just turns into a high-speed road, because it could be a lot more dangerous with a lot of usage. So some of the suggestions is to bring down the speed, because we can't do anything about the fact that it's a very curvy road and the sight lines are too short for people to be making really good decisions about somebody trying to cross the road, say at 32nd or 34th or something like that. Part of the problem is that the streets don't line up on Spenard, just like the same problem we have in North Spenard where they did all that work. So what they did there was, the idea is to bring the road and make it narrower so that pedestrians can cross safely. And it's also going to be more accessible for bicyclists, because right now it more or less ends at Benson. So we need to continue that. This project's been a long time in the making. I think Bob was the chair, and it was like 2013 that we asked the Muni to work on this. So it's been on the hopper a long time, and we just thought these were some good ideas to put before the planners and engineers as far as what the community council wants and the neighborhood and concerned stakeholders.
And I would also add, just to clarify, that this is the part of the road starting at Benson to the north and down to where it intersects with Minnesota. So, so the part further north has already been done, and that's already 3-lane and has a lot of the features that we want in this section as well. And the part that was done many years ago to the south of this project is also 3-lane and divided sidewalk and a lot of the amenities. So a lot of this is to keep it all consistent. And as Peggy said, there's going to be a lot more residential and pedestrian traffic, especially in this part of the road with new residential developments going through in the future. And we want to be ahead of that. So this area of the road especially is going to look a lot different in just a few years or very soon.
Thank you. And folks may recall, if you were here, I think in October, that we had the engineers that are lead on this project present a few different versions of a 3-lane diet. They kind of have just an open comment period, but so it's taken us a few months to get our task force together to sit down and take the time to compile these suggestions. They're not necessarily tied down to any one of the options. There were 3 different options that the engineer had laid out, but this is a way to just compile general comments that we want to see incorporated in this, referring to the Spenard corridor plan, to open house meetings and conversations we've had as a council. So thank you, Bob and Peggy, for putting all of this together, and for the other folks that participate in the meeting. It's still open, like we can send comments whenever. You as individuals can also send comments. The website is spenardroad.com, but we just thought it was really timely to do this because they will start to get into really doing more of the design work and what it will all look like, and where crosswalks will be and how everything will lay out on that stretch of roadway. So this is why we decided to bring it forward to the council. So any questions or comments from folks, including anyone who participated in the task force? Anything big to share?
I will just second what, and I unfortunately missed the last meeting, but I will second what Bob and Peggy said and everybody else, is that there was a lot of conversation, a lot of work that went into this document, and really thinking about what we want our community to look like, and especially when it comes to pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety. So really it was very forward thinking. It's what's good for us now, but also what's good for us as we continue to grow as a community. And so that I'm really proud that that's reflected in this document. And I think that's just important for us to think about, is whenever we do things like this, is really thinking about what is the big picture? How is it impacting not just us, because some of us will move away in the next few years, but how will it impact future residents and our neighbors and kids and grandkids and friends? So fellow Spenardians, if you will.
Thank you.
I hope you support this.
Great. And go ahead, Cheryl, if you have a comment or question.
I just wanted to thank the committee. They've done a very thorough job, and I think they've covered things well.
Thank you. Hey, Daniel, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Could I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I actually work for the city, but I'm a resident of Spenard, and anything I say tonight, it is as a resident of Spenard. So I don't want to, I'll just try and be as vague as possible, I guess. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see this letter. Personally, I really look forward to a more walkable and kind of human-centered Spenard. 3 things I really want to say is that new development, new housing, it means new people. It doesn't necessarily mean new driving. One of the best ways to ensure that new housing means new driving is if you keep building infrastructure for more and more driving. Basically, right? If you build housing in places with lots of roads and lots of parking, the people who move there are going to do more driving. But if you build housing in places with different infrastructure, you're going to get a lot of more of this kind of walking and shorter trips, kind of like what people already said. Another thing I'd like to say is that I think in my experience, a lot of times people building roads or designing roads might have maybe different priorities than what a community wants or what a plan wants. So I think it's really important to always advocate for what you want to see, even if somebody tells you, oh, that doesn't fit or this or that, especially if you're supported by the plan and you're supported by the community. One of the most common ones is often people designing roads. They're designing roads for speed. Their main metric is how fast and how quickly can we move traffic through this road? That's their main priority. Whereas for people, they say, well, how can we connect people with this road? How can we cross this road safely? And those two priorities can sometimes contradict each other. And it doesn't always come to the surface, but it can lead to very different design outcomes. And finally, I just want to say, public right-of-way is public space. So really, it belongs to all of us. It's supposed to serve all of us, and it's supposed to serve all of our needs. So if somebody tells you, no, this road is for X, and you say, well, I don't think that the plan agrees with that, and I don't think our community agrees with that. Just remember that public right-of-way is public. It is public space, and it can be managed to the goals of the community. So again, just my opinions. Speaking as a citizen, I live here. Also, thanks everybody for your work.
Good, thanks, Daniel. It was like a good rallying cry. Better design, yeah. I'm not seeing any other comments or questions. It's a little hard for me to see when I'm sharing my screen, but I think what we can do is put the vote form in the chat. I'm going to look again to maybe Arena. There, it's already there. So as if you're a Spenard resident or member, so if you have a business or property and have attended a meeting in the last year, you can go ahead, click on that form and vote. And this is just if we should sign on to this letter or not. And for any kind of action like this, I always just want to reiterate, this is something that you can also do in your capacity in commenting on this road project. Some of you may have already done that. You might have attended one of the open houses or site walks or whatever they had. So folks can do that as well. But there's the Google form. And if you have trouble with it, just send a message to one of us hosts. Jeff, do you have a comment or question? Jeff Troiano.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I just recently started following through Julie Leonard, who's an old friend to go way back. And I had some experience on the Spenard Council many years ago when we were trying to get some of the assembly members to kind of look at, the neighborhood and some security issues that were going on at the time. And so it was many years ago. I'm talking about the late 90s. And basically my orientation is I've been I've developed a couple of properties in Spenard, and I've always loved the area. And I don't live in Alaska anymore. We retired out of there about 4 years ago. So now I live in Washington, but I come up every year. So very much involved. I have a lot of friends in Alaska. So that's why I just wanted to be part of this little forum.
Well, thanks for joining. Maybe next time you come up, Spenard will be a little bit more improved every time.
Yeah, I know. I was up there last June. It looked, considering the times that we're in, although I did notice the homeless situation was definitely, we've got a big issue, as you know, on the West Coast, but certainly in Anchorage, you definitely have. And it's very, it's great to see some of the proposals I was very quickly reading through.
Cool.
When Mr. Perez was introducing some of those initiatives for homeless shelters, the community's got to do all they can to help that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as folks vote, I'm going to go ahead and shift into the next topic, which is related because our committee met and we were like, we needed this committee because there's so many transportation and land use and all these different issues that come to us. So the next topic is related. I'm going to put a different link into the chat, and it's on the agenda as a transportation improvement program. So again, I'm sharing my screen. So every year we as a community council nominate projects onto our capital improvement program. You probably have filled out a survey about that. And basically transportation, park, trails, these projects take a long time because they're expensive. So they take a lot of different streams of funding to make them happen. So like Bob and Peggy said, 13 years ago, they were talking about moving this section of Spenard forward, and we're just getting into the design phase of that. So that project is funded through the Transportation Improvement Program. There are a lot of acronyms. I'm going to try not to use them. So what this program is it's this 2023 to 2026, because we've already had this 2020 or 2019, I think, to 2022, but they're seeking nominations. So it's open right now for anybody to submit nominations for transportation related projects that could eventually be funded with federal funds within this timeframe. And there are some nomination forms. It's less complicated than it used to be, but it's still kind of complicated. Each project falls into like a different bucket. Really big projects like this part of Spenard Road, it's one of these complete streets, major infrastructure projects. But then there are also projects that are really just pedestrian or bicycle related, even though complete streets projects can have pedestrian and bicycle related infrastructure. So there's a little bit of a, which category does it go into? But you don't have to be the expert on that. We'll make these nominations, and luckily the folks over at AMATS, the Anchorage Metropolitan Area Transportation Solutions, can figure out which bucket and how to score it and weigh it and do all this more difficult stuff. So this is the website that has all of the different information, the different buckets of categories, the criteria that they're using. There's even a guide on acronyms, so it's a lot. I don't need to go into all of the detail, but I'll just click on one of these. These are the nomination forms. And like I said, anybody can do this. If you want to nominate a project in your neighborhood that just hasn't seen the light of day, here's how to do it. So there's a little bit of background about what is a complete street or major infrastructure project. Here are some examples, which I think are the most helpful. So we're thinking about transit stop improvements, ADA accessibility improvements. What about road diets? So that's the reducing the Spenard from 4 to 3 lanes, these different really big, really expensive projects. And then you kind of go through this form to do all of that. So what we are bringing forward to the council tonight is a recommendation on a grouping of projects for Spenard that we could submit as the community council. In this process, it's not like the more people who submit something, the better. It doesn't get more scoring. So as long as these are submitted, we're good and we can move forward from there. So what we did as a committee is we looked at what projects do we have on our capital improvement program, like our project list, our priority list for each year. What projects do we have in the Spenard corridor plan? What projects are there in the non-motorized plan? And what projects are there in the Metropolitan Transportation Program 2040, or Plan 2040? Those are a lot of plans, but they basically go in order of like, what's the most local? Our capital improvement project list is the most local. And then it gets into all of these different planning documents that once it's in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2040, the MTP, that means it could potentially be funded by this Transportation Improvement Program fundings, the TIP fundings, the federal funds. It sounds complicated because it kind of is, because there's a lot of planning that goes into making sure we're investing in the right places on the right things. So this draft resolution basically says, like, we looked at all of these important documents for us. These are what matter to us in Spenard. So this list, these 17 projects, these are the ones that our committee kind of prioritized to the top. Some of them, you don't have to get as in the weeds, but like some of them have been funded. Like this section of Spenard Road is funded through the TIP, but we have the Spenard Road section that isn't being funded yet. It's the Benson to Northwood, or like the railroad. That's going to be the next missing link. So we got to start advocating for it now. And so lots of these projects on the list, we can point to different planning documents, different priorities that we've had as a council, but these are some that have been kind of consistent throughout that we've been trying to move forward. some of them have been funded in some ways, like 32nd and 33rd upgrades. That'll be on the bond, but it's going to need more funding to be constructed. So it gets more complicated. The folks that work on this can know all of the details, but this was our best effort to try to really consolidate what we're looking at and what we're wanting to see and happen and move forward in Spenard. So I won't go through the whole list, but I'll see if anyone on the committee wants to talk about any of these in particular or anything else to add for the context. I'm not seeing any questions or comments from the council. Go ahead, Bob and Peggy.
Yeah, hi. If it makes people feel better, this is a lot of information to take in a short time. And if it makes people feel better, we've been really consistent on asking for these things year on year. So these are not new things. Some of them have only been put on in recent years. As we go through the bigger projects, like when North Spenard was done, we were able to put something on the bottom of the list so it can move up too. But you know, we've been, as a council, very supportive of these projects. So, and there's been a lot of concurrence amongst the council members that these are good for the council. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, I think you've all heard me talk a lot about transportation over the many months. So I think we're good. Okay, I think Arena will be able to add that vote form into the chat. We are such a team, and we can go from there. And while folks do that, maybe Arena, can you share how the vote went, or is it done for the Spenard Road comments?
Yes, we had 23 votes in favor and 0 against and 0 abstaining.
Great.
Yay.
Go team. I forgot to vote, but it's okay. There's a lot going on in front of me. Okay, great. So with that, we're going to go to elections, and then we have another presentation afterwards because we thought we'd be tallying or whatever, but it will be much smoother now, actually, because I think we opened up nominations last month, and then as an executive board, we had to really try to parse out, like, okay, what could this look like? How could things change moving forward? Because Spenard has a really great rule that, or in our bylaws, that the president can only serve 2 consecutive terms. So I'm termed out, and it feels great. So we, as an executive board, when we opened up nominations, were able to, I think, fill all of the positions. During the meeting, somebody said, hey, I'm going to step back. So now none of the positions are opposed, but we still, I think, can take just a few minutes to have everybody who is interested and willing to run to just share a little bit about, you know, where you live in Spenard, what you're hoping to do, and serving on the executive board. And then we'll have the form that will be kind of an easy form to fill out, but you'll be able to go through that as well. So with that, this is everybody's opportunity to learn who's running for what. So for president, I'm going to turn it over to Meg Milkey, who is stepping forward to run as president.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Meg, and I live, I think you would call it, the old Hermit Park neighborhood of Spenard. So I'm at, yeah, shout out to Margaret. I'm at 32nd and Lois. I will be celebrating my 5th year Spenard anniversary this coming summer. I grew up in Chugiak, bounced around a little bit, and I'm in Spenard and never want to leave. I've been coming to meetings, I think, for about 3 years. Time is weird with COVID, but I think that's right. And I've been on the exec board as the secretary for 2 years. And I really just love bringing the community together. You maybe don't hear me talk a lot in these meetings, but I really do love to listen to what's going on and hear input from others. And I also really love community events. Trick or Treat Fish Creek is one of my favorites, and I'm excited to keep doing that. Also like to help out with the election forums. So that's kind of my reason for being here. I'm grateful for everyone attending and having these great meetings in great community space here.
Thank you. And our candidate for vice president actually cannot be here, but I have a blurb for them and a funny picture. So Matt Duncan has been participating in our meetings, and he said, shoot, tonight I'm flying. He works for the Alaska Air National Guard. He also lives in Old Hermit Park neighborhood. And I'd say he really started to get engaged and plugged in with the council when he came up with a Facebook group of that name to talk really local in his little micro neighborhood of Spenard. But you can see what he said that he would do in serving as vice president. He would not be political, they'll be practical, focus on serving citizens of Spenard and advocating for services, walkability, bikeability, and accountability. He has the support of his partner, Margaret, and from the Air National Guard. So even though he is flying tonight, he does have approval from his commanders that he will not be flying in the future. He might actually be signed in to listen tonight, but he can't, can't speak because it's very loud. So that is Matt, who is stepping forward to serve as vice president. And then we also have treasurer for the next position, and Julie Leonard has agreed to step forward for this. Julie, take it away.
Hi, I'm Julie Leonard, as she said. I lived in Spenard for, gosh, oh man, over 20 years. I've served for 3 years as a Spenard auditor. I live off Chugach Way, so the Chugach Way project is very dear to me to see that move along in a healthy fashion. I love Spenard. I'm committed to the health and well-being of Spenard, to see Spenard grow in a way that serves the community best. I'm excited to be on the board, the executive board, and just keep things going and to be responsible for all of the finances that support all of our fun activities in Spenard.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we also have for secretary, we've got Sarah Prescott stepping forward to serve as secretary.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I'm Sarah Prescott, running for secretary. I was born and raised in Anchorage, but I've lived in Spenard since 2014. I live, I think, in the same general area as Meg, 32nd in Minnesota, closer to Minnesota, I think though. And I think that my role on this board is to maintain accurate documentation and accessible record. So I will hopefully continue in Meg's footsteps and do good secretary work. So when we can read our minutes at the next meeting, we have good minutes and we all remember what happened. So thank you.
Thank you. I like how you said that, accurate documentation. I don't remember what you said, but like spoken like a librarian.
I have a philosophy, but we only had 2 minutes, so.
Awesome, thank you. All right, and then we have 3 auditor positions. There are 2 positions and an alternate, and we kind of just bring them all in as 3. So we've got Irene Gamble running for auditor. Take it away, Irene. You're muted. Still muted.
Sorry, I got excited. Hi, everyone. I know you've seen me here on these little squares for the last couple of years, and I was secretary before this position for also a couple of years when we met in person all the time. I was born in Spenard, well, actually Anchorage, and Spenard then was a separate area. It had its own title instead of Anchorage, and then Spenard got incorporated. I have lived here most of my life. I did go back east to college, which was Idaho. That was as far east as I'd ever been at the time. So yeah, I don't know where else I would live except Spenard. And then I did marry someone who also grew up in Spenard. And we live in the house that he grew up in, and I still have the house that my family has and use it as an Airbnb. So I am Spenard all the way through, and I will do my best also to be accurate as an auditor. I have served as treasurer for 2 different organizations nationally and statewide, and I think I can handle that. It'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Irene. All right, we've also got Peggy. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yes, hi. I've lived in Spenard for over 35 years and love it and feel devoted to the people that live here. I want to make it a better place. My real love is land use and how to make things work better. I was the chair of the land use committee for 25 years. So that's my other passion. But I also was a bookkeeper at a 16-member law firm with 45 people that work so I take my fiduciary duties seriously. And Bob and I were involved with helping to get our funds. We were lucky to do that. We had a lot of help, but we have a very healthy account and we have an interest in maintaining that. So thank you. I'm really delighted that I can serve again.
Perfect, thank you. And a new president stepping up is Margaret Mcdonough. Margaret.
Hi, I'm Margaret McDonough. I am the partner of Matt and resident of Old Hermit Park neighborhood. I've been I'm a lifelong Anchorage resident, but I've been in Spenard for over 20 years in Old Hermit Park neighborhood. And started getting involved with the community council probably not like consistently, but on and off about 7 years ago. And actually a lot more consistently since Zoom. That's made it a little bit easier actually for me. But yeah, and I just am happy to help out and serve my community because I love Spenard and think it's the greatest place to live.
Great, thank you. And that is our new slate for candidates. So Avrina will add the vote link into the chat box. And again, you can vote as a Spenard member if you've also attended a meeting in the last 12 months. So I think the link is in there. And I'm excited to step into the role as President Emeritus, which means I get to support the next president and the next executive board for some time. And then I get to just be like everybody else and raise my own hand during these meetings. It's been really a great 2 years serving, and I really am looking forward to what's next. Let's mute that. All right. So with that, while folks vote, well, first I'll ask Irina how the vote went for the TIP, the transportation resolution. Are those votes complete as well, Irina?
It looks like they're still coming in. So it changed like 10 seconds ago. So in case people are still voting, we'll give it a couple more minutes.
Okay, we'll let that keep going, and the executive board member vote link as well. All good. Okay, so next, while all the tallying and stuff happens, we thought it'd be a good time to have a presentation. So I'd like to welcome Jennifer Schmidt from UAA to share about wildlife hazard mapping. I think you're here. I saw you earlier. Jen, yes, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me to attend. I'm a resident of Spenard, but never have attended a community council meeting. So,
well, welcome.
It's been very interesting, and I signed up for the whatever drawing that you have. So can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll put it in full screen. All right, so yeah, I'm here to present about wildfire hazards. This is some work that I've done at UAA. I work at ICER, the Institute for Social and Economic Research. And I think tonight here, my undergraduate student is also attending, Alex. She's helped me with some of this work. And Zeke Zeal, he is up at UAF. He used to work as the fire behavior analyst for the Division of Forestry at the state of Alaska. He's not here right now, but part of this project. Someone is drawing on my screen. Someone named Jeff drew on my screen. All right, wildfire hazard assessment. What do we mean by hazard? By hazard, we mean a potential source of harm. So we're talking about the harm itself. The maps do not include values or assets. So where people live or where houses are, or say power lines. So in this picture here, you can see that you have the pipeline, which is a highly valued asset, which would not be included in the maps that I'll show you. But what is captured in the maps is, say, this flammable black spruce that you see here on fire. So in our case, the hazard is fuels. What are fuels? Fuels are anything that can burn during a fire. So it can be grass, shrubs, trees, dead leaves, needles. And you have a picture here just showing some different types of fuels. Tree crowns, this can create crown fires. You have embers shooting up into the air, falling on houses, other vegetation. Ladder fuels, these can wick the fire up to the top of a tree and help facilitate its spread. And then surface fuels, things like shrubs and grasses. So fuels are very important. They are the hazard. And so we use this exposure method. It was developed by Jen Beverly. She's a Canadian. And what it does is it reflects the potential for wildfire activity. So it doesn't say where a wildfire will happen. It doesn't say how often a wildfire will happen, but what is the potential for the vegetation in that area to be flammable and burn. Our approach also incorporates the surrounding vegetation, and I'll show you here soon. We calculated this for 84, 94, 2004, and 2014, so 40 years of change. And that's because this data set comes from a remote sensed information, so Landsat information from the sky. And it's a 31-year data set, so we can look at changes over time. And so, as I kind of hinted to before, embers are important. If people remember the Fort McMurray wildfire in Canada, most of those houses that burned in that community were caught on fire by embers. And of course, embers, travel through the sky and can land on the vegetation around your house. They can land on your roofs. And we're focusing on kind of these short range embers. So embers that move about 100 meters. And so what we do is we look at what are the hazardous fuels within this 100-meter radius. And then we calculate kind of what is the exposure value in this 100-meter radius. So when you're looking at a cell, it not only incorporates the vegetation of that cell, but what's around it to really capture these embers. And so the vegetation that we use has about 16 different categories. And you assign hazardous fuels values to the vegetation. So as we know, evergreen, black spruce, white spruce, they're highly flammable. They get the maximum value of 100. And then as we move down, things become less flammable. Mixed forests are still pretty flammable because they do include spruce in the mixed forest, but there is some deciduous in there. So the hazardous fuels drops. Deciduous, they contain, leaves, they can be wet leaves, embers that land on them can sometimes be put out. So deciduous actually can be helpful around your house. And then as we go down, the vegetation gets shorter and less flammable. Deciduous is actually 33, all the way down to 0 for sparse vegetation. And so you have this vegetation, you make your hazardous fuels maps using these values here, and then you do your search radius to look at what is the average exposure value, this hazardous fuel value in that circle. And it ranges from 0 to 100, with 100 being highly flammable, high exposure. So this is what Anchorage looks like overall. This map just kind of helps familiarize you with the colors too, but you'll see the Campbell area. You see some reds here. This means this is has high exposure values. 80 to 90% of the vegetation in that area is probably going to be spruce. And then the blue values are very little to no wildfire exposure or hazard. And so what does our neighborhood, I guess my neighborhood, look like? This is the Spenard area, and the black kind of outline is hard to see here. But if you're familiar with the Spenard area, you kind of know where it is. And, you know, looking at it, you do see a lot of gray here, which is pavement, sparsely vegetated. But there are some neighborhoods around here where I can see some browns, which is the woodland, which had about a value of 75, and some greens here. Now up here is a big patch of green. You know, these are going to be your evergreen, your spruce trees that are going to have a higher flammability over in here. So how does this translate into what wildfire exposure looks like? So this is the wildfire exposure map for the area. And as you suspect, out by the airport, very little fuels, very low wildfire hazard. But there are some neighborhoods here where there are higher wildfire exposure values. So, you know, I would probably, you know, for houses in this area, make some recommendations to do some fire-wise activities, and I'll get into those. If some of these neighborhoods are near homeless camps, maybe in the spring, keeping your grass kind of green, because in the spring, grass is the thing that catches on fire, and those move really, really fast. So keeping that kind of watered and having a rock buffer around your house might be good. And also checking out your gutters, you know, and your roofs, just to make sure that they're kind of cleaned out. But so those are the only areas, you know, within the Spenard that, you know, have higher values to them. How has this changed over time? So, you know, this map includes development since 1984. Some people on the Zoom here have been around for a while and probably have seen some of these developments come in to the Spenard neighborhood. But overall, you know, slight increases. The brown indicates slight increases in wildfire hazards. Wildfire hazard has grown up a little bit more over in this area, but not too big of a change. Nothing like what you see further to the north here, where there's pretty big increases in wildfire hazard. So I've also developed this planning tool. So, I mean, with this information, communities can kind of identify where wildfires are most likely to enter their community so that they could prioritize mitigation efforts. So I'm going to put this link in the chat here. So when I'm gone, if people wanted to look at the wildfire hazards I can only give it to Meg, it looks like, but I'll give it to her. You know, when this presentation is over, if people want to go and look at wildfire hazards, they can go to this app. You'll get a splash page here that says what it is, and just click I understand. And then you can zoom in. Will come up, so we can zoom in here. And here's the Spenard area, and you can move around, drag it all around. There you go. And to, you know, get rid of the community councils if you don't want to see them, or you wanted to zoom in on a certain one, you can just click and it'll take the community councils off. Like right now, Bear Valley is highlighted, but this allows you to zoom in and kind of look around your community and see what wildfire hazards are. As you can see, land ownership plays a big role in wildfire hazards. So maybe this app can be handed out to people in the notes. I heard a careful note-taking, accurate documentation. And so what can you do? Defensible space, you know, the most important part is 0 to 5 feet around your house. So not having propane tanks around here, stacks of wood around here. Like I mentioned, that rock buffer, you know, if there is a grass fire, that can help prevent fires from running up to your house, cleaning out your gutters, no, you know, cedar roofs, which there aren't too many around this neighborhood, things like that. Spruce trees, you can live them up, you know, 6 to 8 feet. That also helps keep the fire, if it is on the ground, going up to the spruce tree and creating bigger problems. You know, like I said, you don't have to cut down all your trees. Deciduous trees are good. I mean, I see spruce trees around the neighborhood. I have some in my yard. Just try to limb them up and keep them watered. There is a FireWise program in the municipality, so they can come out and do a survey and give you recommendations for things to do to reduce your wildfire hazards. Also think about zoning and space between houses. There's been some discussion of development here. And in the Paradise Fire that was in California, 73% of the houses that burned were within 60 feet of each other. So, you know, with that spacing between houses, it helps limit house to house transmission, but also your fire-wise perimeter is, you know, like 10 meters or 30 meters. So if the houses are close together, you really got to work with your neighbor to try to reduce your wildfire hazards. So bigger lot sizes kind of allow you to take more control over, say, your wildfire hazard around your house. And then some other things I'm trying to promote are a chipper program within Anchorage. They use this over in Whitehorse in Canada, and the chipper comes to the neighborhood and people bring their, you know, fuels, their brush to the chipper, and it gets taken away rather than having to drive it to the dump. Not everyone has a big truck and can do that. So I'm trying to advocate for that. And I work with the Hillside and Rabbit Creek to do kind of fire-wise events, you know, have demonstrations on how to limb up your trees, how to inspect your house, things like that. So that's all I have. Have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Let's open it up. Any questions for Jen or her team? I'm not seeing any, but when I brought your request to our executive board, folks were interested because with all the trees that just blew down and spruce bark beetle, there were lots of like, oh yeah, this is important. But it looks like we've got Kimberly Hunt. You have a question. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Hi, I just took myself off of mute. My camera's not working, but I just wanted to comment that the chipper truck idea seems like a wonderful idea. I used to live in a neighborhood that had one, and I really liked the presentation. So I didn't want to be lurking. I wanted to at least say something. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm hoping to, I talked to the author of those maps, and he's trying to get funding to produce these for 2022 to hopefully maybe capture some of the spruce bark beetle damage. I know I've seen some spruce trees come down in my neighborhood here in Lancaster. So it would be nice to, you know, incorporate that into the newer assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
Great, thank you. I've got the map open, so I'll poke around on that later. All right, so I think we've got some tallies, some votes. I'm going to turn it over to Irina to share about the TIP amendment resolution.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lindsay. So for the TIP resolution, it passes. So we had 21 votes in favor, 0 against, and 2 abstaining. And would you like to hear the election results as
Sure
well?
do.
Okay, great. Very tough race, lots of candidates. Everyone won. Congratulations. You all made it. If people are curious to know how many votes they got, feel free to private message me, or if you want me to publicize that, I'm happy to do so as well. But congratulations, everyone.
Awesome. Great. It worked. I'm not going to be president. That's what worked. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for the participation and engagement, especially around voting and taking actions. I think it's an important thing that we do as a council. So with that, we have another opportunity to engage as a council on the West Anchorage Candidates Forum. So I'm going to turn it over to Tani to share that announcement, and then we'll open it up to neighborhood and community announcements.
Yes, I forgot I was going to talk about this. So the West Anchorage Candidates Forum is coming up in the spring. We do this for each election. So we have for the upcoming spring assembly election. And it is a fantastic committee that meets in a very short period of time. It's about maybe 2 months of meeting and prep time, and we go over questions and we plan publicity, and we invite all of the candidates, and we create a wonderful event that we also will host. I think we're going to try and figure out if it will be in person or hybrid or via Zoom. And we're looking for volunteers who are interested in being on the committee. So if you are looking for ways to get more involved, but you weren't quite ready to run for a position on the executive board, this is a really fantastic committee. Like I said, sometimes it can be a little time intensive for the next 2 months, but not so much that it's unreasonable for folks, and we have a lot of fun, but it's really important to have a variety of voices because we want to make sure that we're asking diverse and fair questions to the candidates in order for folks to really understand who they might elect. And we've had a lot of really positive feedback about this forum, so we want to continue that tradition. So if you're interested, Lindsay, what is the best way? Just to email this Spenard Community Council email? Okay.
Yes, I pre-wrote that into the chat.
Perfect.
So yeah, just email the council.
Okay, and we are right now doing a doodle poll to figure out the best time, but yes, it is looking like Wednesday, February, we're already in February 9th at 6 p.m. is looking like the day that is going to be the first meeting. So let us know if you can join and we'll make sure to add you to the list.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. I guess I've just been muted this whole time. Thanks for that. And yes, please do participate. I don't know if you said, Tani, but that's how you initially got involved in the council, was helping to make the forum happen. It's a great way to get involved. Cool. Any other community or neighborhood announcements, or folks who want to introduce yourselves, or if this is your first meeting, things going on in your neighborhood, now is the time to share. So I'll try to call in people as I see you. Raise your hand or flag me down, but we'll go with Tani and then Elise.
Oh yeah, I know I just talked, but this is my personal, I wanted to do a personal thank you, and I didn't get to do this in our social, but I wanted to thank our legislators. And I think that I've noticed a change in the plowing patterns of Tudor, Northern Lights, Minnesota, something I haven't seen in years. And I'm sure other people can agree that in past years, we've been getting plowed like, it seemed like once a month, once every 2 months in the winter. And it was really dangerous. And I have been advocating for plowing conditions to improve for the past few years, past few winters. And I will say this is the first time where I've noticed people are actually getting to walk on sidewalks. And so I wanted to thank all of the people who were involved. And I think Mia Costello and Harriet Drummond were two of the folks who said that they were gonna step up and try and help find a solution. So I've noticed like the one sidewalk it's just so great to see it. And it is really good for pedestrian safety. So kudos to them and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And Senator Elvie Gray Jackson, also
yes,
her office helped. We sent a lot of emails back and forth after the meeting. Great, thank you. Elise, Jed, and then Jim. Go ahead, Elise.
Hi, I'm just here to introduce myself. This is my second or third meeting. I've been listening in because I hope to represent each of you someday. And this is just, for me, a way of making sure I'm listening to those who are very engaged in their communities. So I'm grateful to be able to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come. And I will make sure in the future that you have my contact information should you have any questions of me, but that's down the road. It's a long way down the road. For now, I've just been listening in and I'll be here every month. And to me, it's so important to not just be here close to the election time, but to always be here. So I firmly believe in that. And I'm so grateful to see that all of your I'm going to a lot of different community council meetings, and I really appreciate hearing all of your reports here. It's been a fantastic example of democracy and work on a local level. It's just fantastic. You all are amazing, and I'm grateful to be able to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, and over to Jed and then Jim.
Hey, thanks. Just want to give one more shout out and props to Lindsay for all of her hard work for the last 2 years. I know that a lot of work goes on outside of these meetings to put together a good program and also to make sure that these meetings run very smoothly and stay on task. So thank you for all of your hard work doing that. The other thing I want to mention, totally unrelated, I mentioned this last month, but I'm on the Anchorage Folk Festival Board of Directors, and we weren't able to hold our regular festival this year. But instead, we did host a house concert for a small audience 2 weekends ago with Andrew and Aaron Heist and a band called Valley Below. And the video of that house concert is up on the Anchorage Folk Festival website. I really encourage you all to take a peek at that. Both groups sounded amazing. And also just a quick hat tip to the Carousel Lounge. I think that Valley Below had played at the Carousel the night before. So thanks for keeping live music in the neighborhood, Paul. And we have a couple of vacancies on our board of directors. So if you know of anyone who's interested in promoting folk music in Anchorage, please contact the Anchorage Folk Festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Jim, Sarah, and then Sarah. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you. My name is Jim Wright. I'm a candidate for House District 14, subsequent to redistricting. It's an open seat. Basically, with the boundaries, the redistricting boundaries resulted in your representative, Harriet Drummond, being in a different district now. At the other end of the new district, Andy Josephson is outside of the district. So we're starting fresh. And I'm a Democrat running for House District 14. It runs from Spenard through Midtown, Rogers Park. And I presently live in Rogers Park, or actually College Village. Actually, Elise and I are neighbors up there. So we're at your east end. But once upon a time, in my misspent youth, I lived in Spenard, and I lived at 2903 Doris Place. So I look forward to revisiting Spenard and getting reacquainted with folks down here. Once we moved up to College Village to the east, I got involved with Rogers Park Community Council. So I've been doing that for about 16 years. I think that the community council system is wonderful. It's grassroots democracy at its best, and I'm seeing it here as well. We really, what I'd like to do now is get to know you all. I'm here to listen aggressively, and I want to give you my contact so you can email me. I'm at jwright, JWRIGHT, at gci.net, and I'll be here regularly, making a pest of myself, of course. And you all can ask me any questions you like over the course of time. We've got a number of months ahead of us going into the campaign season. We've got to do the assembly thing first, of course, and then we'll look at the campaign season for State House. But I look forward to hearing your views. I want to earn your vote, and please give me that opportunity. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And Sarah, over to you.
Thanks. I just wanted to let folks know, if you were looking for another opportunity to get involved in your community, there are several seats open on the Public Transit Advisory Board. That's a board that serves the Public Transportation Department for the municipality of Anchorage. We currently have 4 open seats. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Sometimes the process can be a little long. So if you have applied and you haven't heard back, don't worry, they're processing. But we do have open seats, and we would love to have you join us.
Thank you. Any other announcements? All right, we're winding down, and we're so well ahead of time. We should just do this every time. I think we're at our treasurer's time for door prize. How about that, Arena?
Sounds good. I really like my job here. It's my last time giving out money and whatnot, which has been my job for many years. So it'll be Julie next month. So this month we are giving out cards to Yak and Yeti Cafe. And so I know. So this is probably the most competitive door prize drawing that we've ever had, because so many people came and signed in. That both of those two things don't normally happen. So this is a momentous occasion. So there are 32 people who are members and probably haven't won in the last 6 months. So if you've won in the last 6 months and you don't tell me, other people will shame you. So we're going to do a random number generator and I will let you know. Must be present to win. So let's go. The first number is 26. That is Jerry. Jerry, I see you. Yeah, you're muted.
Jerry Leonard.
Congratulations, you're the first winner.
She will pass that off to me. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.
And the other one is number 24, and that's Irene.
Nice.
Congratulations. You know, I live between both Jerry and Irene, so if you are ever, you know, wanting to stop by and drop something off, it's fine.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think I've won in the last 6 months, pretty sure. So a nice way to go out from the vice presidency. And I love Yak and Yeti, and I've met the people that own it, and yeah, it's a great place. So cool, thank you.
Sounds good. I'll get the cards to you.
Thank you.
Great, perfect. With that, we're at the end of our agenda. And before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody again. It's been a weird 2 years, but it's been a lot of fun being able to connect really locally through the community council with this group of people. And it's always great to see more new people attend our meetings, new people get involved on different committees, and to step onto the executive board. So I'm really excited for what's next, and I'm so thankful for so much time, energy, dedication from everybody over the last couple of years, from Halloween, like trick-or-treat events, to passing resolutions that we can all vote on through the bond, to working just really locally on cleanup events, engaging in different parks and potlucks. We've done a lot in this weird COVID time. So I'm excited to see what we'll continue to do. So thanks, everybody. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. This is Peggy.
I second that.
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks, Irene. All right, our next meeting will be March 2nd, and we'll have Meg pull us in. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
Have a nice night.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Bye. All right, thanks, everyone.
Great meeting, Lindsay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, all.